everybody. Welcome to a Good Friday edition of Muckin N Grindin. Got a little bit of Caps and Devils are getting ready to start their third period. It's tied 1-1. Let's hope the Devils pull one out. Philadelphia still in a downward spiral after the Buffalo Sabres ended their massive losing streak, beating the Flyers 6-1 the other night. Connor McDavid was fined $5,000, which is league minimum for a first-time offender, for an elbowing incident during one of his games. Pens news, we got Brandon Tanev returned to the lineup the other night against Boston with a 3-1 victory. It looked pretty good, looked pretty steady. Guys are slowly but surely starting to get healthy again. Jason Zucker returned to the lineup the other night also. Just basic news, we're getting closer to the trade deadline. The only real trade of noteworthy was Eric Stahl going to Montreal. I don't think he could have probably left Buffalo fast enough. It's a shame that there's a lot of talent up there in Buffalo, but it's either grossly mismanaged or they just don't like being there. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how these guys are dealing with it, but it's kind of disheartening to see. Later on tonight, we got the Calgary Flames and Edmonton Oilers matching up. Calgary was supposed to be a lot better than what they are. These Calgary and Edmonton both have the same, I think, identity problem. They don't have a goaltender. If one or the other, mainly Edmonton, because they seem to be still playing well, considering you have three of the best players in the NHL, and Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and I honestly think he's probably one of the – it's hard because he's probably top 10 in the NHL because there are so many good young defensemen. As Darnell Nurse, he's one of the greatest defensemen in the league, and he's getting better year by year. If Edmonton could honestly get themselves a true legit starting goaltender, I think you could see them possibly even end that drought of horrible one and done playoff, rounds. And there's a lot of teams that are going to kind of rebuild. And honestly, in each division, that fourth spot is dangerously close to quite a few teams. The playoff race itself is really heating up. The Pens are trying to solidify themselves as the top seed. They're getting dangerously close. If they keep playing the way they are, considering that most of their games left this season are against the bottom dwellers of the division, that's huge because at the beginning of the season they played against, the Caps, Rangers, and Islanders and Philadelphia a ton, and those are supposedly the top teams in the division. So with that being said, the bottom dwellers in the division, we have to lock up all those points possible. You can't lay an egg like you did a couple weeks ago against New Jersey and then bounce back the next night and have a decent night. You have to those are all winnable games. The trade deadline is coming up on the 12th. Nobody knows who's moving, who's doing what. It's kind of up in the air, like who's going to be a mover, who feels that they're ready to take that leap and make a couple deals to make themselves better. Just saw on NHL Network now, the Pens and Bruins are the Saturday showcase at 1:00 game. The thing about these teams playing the Pens is the fact that they still keep trying to be physical with them, and And I don't think these teams get it. Like, once you start being physical with the Pens, they're not taking stupid penalties because Evgeny Malkin's not there. The other night against Boston, Crystal Tang took two dumb penalties that I think one or two that I remember from being just like, come on. Like, let them be who they are. Let them force the issue by being physical, but you still stick to your game and just score goals. Just muck and grind it through. Let your third line abuse everybody. That third line's actually still looking really good considering Teddy Bluger's still out. Tanev and Zach Aston Reese. Zach Aston Reese scoring goals is always a pleasant surprise. The fourth line the other night, Radim Zohorna got his first goal of his NHL career, and it was his first NHL game. He was back to being press box hero again. Anthony Angelo getting a goal the other day was huge also, even though it was a power play goal on that second power play unit. Mike Matheson getting off the schneid where he got his third goal of the season. It's always nice to see that your defensemen keep scoring goals, and I love the fact that these guys aren't afraid to pinch, and the forwards are right there ready to back them up. So, that being said, Shane Gostisbehere was put on waivers the other day for – they don't want to come out and say that it was because he was sticking up for Carter Hart being benched and told he wasn't good enough. Carter Hart's carried that team. So, I mean, the kid's a superstar in the making. He will be a superstar for a long time. Unfortunately, if they keep doing that, either the coach has to go or Carter Hart's going to be gone. And if they lose Carter Hart, shame on them for ruining a goaltender's career early and having just giving up on him. He's one of the brightest talents in the league. As painful as that is because he plays for Philly, but the kid he's phenomenal. He's a very good goaltender, and you should build your franchise around him. Sometimes struggles happen. Fleury struggled when he was younger. It happens with goaltenders. Sometimes they have this mental block where they need to just play through it and work through it. Sometimes they're not going to win every game. There's going to be times where they win games 8-7. Tom Barrasso did that for years when he played for the Penguins. They still didn't get rid of him. They always had a serviceable backup like Frank Pietrangelo, Wendell Young. You hate to see a coach who's been a retread over and over and over in different cities. If his jargon worked and then he got fired, he worked a couple of years and got fired again. Obviously, his shtick only works for so long before it gets old. There was comments the other day when I posted about Gostisbehere possibly coming here, and TJ Kiger actually, we had a decent discussion back and forth with it. It'd be phenomenal to have Shane Gostisbehere here. You'd basically put him in the lineup over Marcus Pettersson. If they would have put the waiver claim, if they would have got the claim, he would have been a $1.5 million cap hit against them, the Pens. And they would have most likely either had to waive Marcus Pettersson or trade him instantly to make sure they had cap space. When you have another offensive defenseman who a lot of people thought was a liability, I don't feel Gostisbehere is a liability. I feel that Todd Reardon would have been able to help him. And sometimes, like Mike Matheson has played really well. Cody Cece's played really well this year. Sometimes these guys need that change of scenery and a coach that will work with them and will bring out the best in them in their playing style. Not how that coach wants them to play, but their playing style. With that being said, he cleared waivers, so we don't really have to worry about it unless there's going to be a trade coming soon, which you never know. Florida could honestly put in for a trade for him because of Aaron Ekblad's broken leg. He's done for the next 12 weeks right off the bat. It was a scary injury. Got It wasn't nothing dirty or anything like that. He just got their legs tangled up. His knee buckled, and then his leg snapped below his knee, which was not a pretty sight, but it happens. So Florida is going to be looking for themselves for a defenseman. There are other teams looking in the services for a Ryan Ellis and Elias Ekholm. From both of those guys are from Nashville. They're rumored to be on the trade block. There are, I think, there was another team I saw that pretty much everybody was on the trading block on their team except maybe one or two players. But that being said, that happens at this time of year also. But one of the cool things is the Rangers, who were a team that was supposed to be on the rebuild with, Lafreniere and Capo Caco and Adam Fox. And, they have a lot of good young talent. And when they were missing Artemi Panarin, they hovered around 500-ish on their record. But since Panarin's been back from Russia, taking care of his personal business, they've been on a tear. They've been playing very well. Zibanejad has actually awoken and started playing back to being the old Zibanejad that he was. And it could be one of those things if their goaltender, if Georgiev and Shesterkin start, playing very well, they could be one of those teams that sneaks into the playoffs and bumps Boston out of the playoffs, which would be, amazingly great. There was a minor deal between Florida and Chicago today. They sent, fourth line forwards back and forth between each other. Minor deal on the crawl on the bottom of NHL Network. As we're still watching, there's 15 minutes left in the third. The New Jersey Devils in their reverse retro Christmas jerseys, and the Capitals in their regular, old school Capitals jerseys. So we have a little bit of Boston time coming up this weekend. Hopefully, like I said, the Pens will keep on it and keep their, lucky streak going. They've won 6 in a row, I think. Casey DeSmith has played admirably all season long. He's been a fantastic backup to Tristan Jarry. Maxime Legacy is actually the backup right now. Emil Larmy was the other night the third goaltender on record, but they would have had to make a paper move to get him to actually sit on the bench. He popped out for a minute, but then they, it was kind of illegal for them to have him out there. They could have been fined for it, but they let it slide. The other news that I've noticed is Jack Campbell, Toronto Maple Leafs goaltender, I think he's won 10 games in a row for himself. I think either 7 or 10. I'm not exactly sure, but I know he's started out. He hasn't lost a game yet, and he's looked very good. He was a good young pick for them a couple years ago. He's finally getting an opportunity because for them, the fact that Freddie Anderson is not the goaltender for the playoffs for them because he's just does not have a very good playoff record. So maybe this might be Toronto's year to get somewhat further in the playoffs. You never know. We'll see what happens. Let's hope everybody gets healthy for the Pens. We'll keep an eye on the wire to see if there's any other moves made. As of right now, it's kind of slow right now until the trade deadline, and then trade deadline day, the NHL Network's going to start their coverage at 8 a.m., which is it's Tuesday, so I may break in here and there throughout the day with any breaking news just on the regular loudmouth feed. Keep an ear open. Hopefully, Big George will be helping me out with that. Hopefully, he keeps a good eye on the wire for me. Also, give me a heads up on things that I may have missed. But as of right now, hey, everybody, enjoy your Good Friday. Enjoy the weekend. Have a happy Easter. Enjoy it with your families. And we'll talk to you again next week.